Welcome back to Tax Talk with Hey Hey, where we offer simplified tax planning and mentorship to help 6 and 7-figure CEOs ditch the daily hustle by achieving financial independence from your business by increasing your purchasing power and diversifying your source of passive income. Through financial mentorship, realistic goal setting, and simplified tax planning, without having to hustle for the rest of your life, with the guarantee of the optimal roadmap to move you towards your desired time freedom. Welcome back, everyone, to Tax Talk with Hey Hey. I am your host, Suhey Piedra, enrolled agent with Prominence Business, located here in Glendora, California. And today we have our friend and guest, Daniel Lopez. He's a business and trademark attorney. And I asked Daniel to be here for not only because he's a cool guy, but also because I love referring clients to Daniel to help them and assist them with incorporating contracts and things like that. But before we get started with all of that good stuff, Daniel, please, I'm going to call you Danny because that's how
That's perfect.
Okay. Enough of the formalities. Danny, tell us a little bit about you. Like, who are you personally? Like, are you a cool guy that golfs all day, or what is it that you do?
So first of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate you having me on here. Who am I? That's a big question. I actually do not golf. I am terrible at golf. I've been invited twice. I've never been invited back because I am that bad. But I'm an attorney. I'm a business attorney and a trademark attorney. My job is essentially just to make sure that business owners can sleep better at night.
Okay. But I want to know more about you personally. Give me something. What do you do? Do you go karaokeing in the weekend?
Oh, you don't want to hear that? No, definitely not. No karaoke.
He's your typical attorney. Oh, I'm just an attorney. It's like, no, you're not. I want to know. Do you karaoke on the weekends?
So, actually, I'm from the East Coast, as you know, right?
Okay.
I came from New Jersey. I played baseball at Rutgers, Newark.
Oh.
In my life today, I still play sports very badly. Not the same, right? Like, we put on about 30 pounds since graduation. But what I like to do is I like to stay active.
Okay.
I'm not one of those people where if you go on vacation, I'm like a sightseer.
Uh-huh.
I'm more of like an activity person.
Okay.
Right? So, my daily life kind of thing is I'm usually working out, trying to find a way to be healthier while still eating poorly, which never works out, right?
That's awesome. Do you travel a lot back to the East Coast, or?
I do. So I come from, my mom's Dominican. She came here when she was in her like mid-20s.
Okay.
From Dominican Republic. So I'm a child of an immigrant. If you know anything about Dominicans, they have 1 billion cousins. So my entire family's back on the East. I kicked this thing. Back on the East Coast.
Okay.
So I do travel back a fair amount.
That's awesome. Family is, very important to me, to us, to our family. We're very little tight knit. But do you have any siblings?
It's complicated. like most Hispanic families, right? We have a little something going on every once in a while.
Yeah.
So I didn't grow up with my biological father.
Okay.
And I have siblings on like his end.
Uh-huh.
But as far as like my end that I grew up with, my mom didn't have any other kids.
Okay.
I did grow up with my cousins in the same
Yeah.
house, so I consider my cousins Maggie and Lenny pretty much my brother and sister.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. I mean, like I said, family to us is important. And when I meet other professionals, I'm always this professional person, But when we start talking about family, you get to see the real me, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're kind of fun." I'm like, I'm not always serious, I'm not all business.
We can tell. I think with the sisters, all of you guys are part of Prominence at some form or another. Yeah. I think it's definitely very easy to see.
Yeah, when I am with them, that's my comfort zone, that's my environment, and so I think that another part of me comes out, but most of the time, yes, business. So we got to talk about business. But anyways, and like I mentioned, the reason I asked you to be here today is we get a lot of questions. And I always tell my clients, look, I am not an expert in all these other fields, but I know enough to guide you to either the right people that are going to help you or to let you know something's not right. Like I've got an eye to see things that, hey, they need attention. So one thing that always happens is, when we're preparing taxes, when we have individuals starting their businesses, the first thing they want to do is to incorporate. And I'll tell them, well, hold back. Why are we incorporating? What's the reason behind it? When I get to dig down a little bit, most of the time it's because they heard a radio commercial saying, you're starting a business, you have to incorporate. And then they end up with this thing that, is now become a headache. There's fees associated with it. There's things that are not being kept up, and it becomes a nightmare, So I've been telling people, don't just run and incorporate if it's not needed. Let's look at where you are in this business and see if it's time for you to incorporate. How do you feel about that? Do you think it's necessary that if I have an idea today that I'm going to start, some sort of a baking business today, that I should run and incorporate before I sell my first cupcake?
So that's a great question. And the answer to that is every business is different, right? And the needs of every business is different. On a kind of general rule, if your products or services are either going to go on people's bodies or in people's bodies,
I love that.
You should definitely get some kind of liability protection. Now, right now, we're talking about incorporating, and most people know that as setting up a corporation. Other options that people have, and I would say sometimes the way better option to go is to do something like get an LLC. As you know, on the tax side, if you have an LLC or a corporation, you have a lot more tax strategies that you can employ, which means when they start making money, they'll be able to come to you and you'll be able to set them up for what their future goals are. As far as businesses in general and getting entity formation, whether that be an LLC or corporation, the one thing the reason why lawyers and why most people do get those entities is because of the liability protection. So an example of that is, we'll use that bakery example. If I go into your bakery and I eat a cookie and now I'm sick for whatever reason, if I sue you and you're not a corporation or LLC, I can come after your personal assets. Right. So that means if you have money in your bank account, that means if you own your house, if you own cars, if you have a trust account that you're saving money for your kids, I can come after all those assets if I sue you. If you have a corporation or an LLC, something that protects you, you're limited to what that business owns. Right. So if the business owns nothing, well, guess what? There's not much I can owe you. I can really sue you for it.
Right.
And that's kind of the big reason why sometimes we do say, hey, even if it's early on for you, think about getting an LLC or incorporating.
Right. And what are we protecting, right? Because I tell them sometimes, let's assume that I live in a room at my mom's house and I don't even own a car, but, this bake shop's going to be great, Again, what are we protecting, right?
Right, 100%.
So that's why it's important that you talk to your professionals because they're going to ask more of the right questions. What are you protecting? What is there to protect? What are the liabilities that you're exposed to? And just because you filed the articles of incorporation with the state or the operating agreement, whatever it's called, and you filed it, does not mean that you're fully protected.
Right.
A lot of the times where good attorneys will get you is because these corporations are not maintained.
Right.
Are not properly set up. There's huge things that are missing from this corporation and it no longer serves its purpose. Is that true?
That's completely true.
Do you see that all the time?
Yeah. So I'll tell you this, right? I'll give you an example of what we do here, right? So if I were to sue you and we're in litigation, in discovery, one of the first things I'm going to ask you for is your business documents. So that means your articles of organization or your articles of incorporation, right? Whatever you have. We're going to ask for an operating agreement, which the biggest mistake I see is people will file their own LLC, people will file their own corporation, and they don't do any of the background documents that you need in order to have those things compliant.
Wait a minute. LegalZoom sends them to you, but who fills them out?
That's a great point. That's a great point.
I'm sorry, I had to throw out there. People come in here with these amazing corporate books. They look so pretty. And I open it and it's blank. And I'm like, who owns this? I do. Well, where's your name?
Right.
And then she goes, well, it's supposed to go right here in this blank space, but you didn't put it. You didn't sign this. You didn't date this. Like, none of this is legal, right? And so those are the things that we run into. And this is why I tell people, like, your professionals are there to protect you, to save you money. Yes, it's going to cost you. There's a fee associated with having a professional look at your things, but what is it really costing you 100%. In the back end? And I think those are the things that people miss out on, is they're not understanding that there's more to a professional just reviewing your documents. There's bigger numbers to protect.
Yeah, and let me speak on the LegalZoom point, right? Because as a business attorney, we get it all the time, like, oh, why can't I just do this myself?
I love LegalZoom.
Yeah, and I'm not here to poo-poo on it, right?
I just tell them it's a tool that you have to know how to use.
with LegalZoom or Rocket Lawyer or even tax services, right? Which I'm sure you see from
all the time.
It's you're filling out that information, but it's your own information that you're putting there, right? So you're not answering the right questions. You don't even know what the right questions are most of the time, right? So yes, you'll fill in the blanks, and those blanks will spit back right at you in the correct space, right? For those documents, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they ask you the right questions. It doesn't necessarily mean that's going to fit what you need.
Yes.
Right. I've seen it all the time where someone, let's say a professional, they've done it through LegalZoom, or they've done it themselves, and they said, oh, I got an LLC because, that's what I thought was right. Turns out for their profession, they can't even have an LLC.
And that's the other thing.
Yeah.
We see that all the time. I was just on a call with a prospective client last week, and they called me in regards to a corporation. And I said, look, I am not an attorney, so you're calling the wrong. No, well, so-and-so told me that you helped them figure that. I said, okay, tell me the story. So they start telling me, and I'm like, wait, you just told me you're a doctor? Yes. And you have a regular corporation? Like I said, I'm not the expert. I know enough to say you have the wrong, you need a professional corporation. Like, you can't have this. It's not, let me rephrase this. It's not that you can't have it. It's just your licenses in this entity do not go hand in hand. Like, you need to have somebody look at this.
If we sue you and you have that set up, you won't be protected by that entity, right? And that's where it becomes a big deal. It's never about just having the paper. Yes, you can have the paper, and that's awesome. But what happens when it's time to actually use those documents?
Right.
If they're not usable, then why even have them? Right. And that's kind of the big takeaway, right? It's not about just having these documents and saving them in a box in the back of a closet for years. It's about, if I get sued or if something happens, will these protect me when I need them to protect me? And most people are just saying, well, I assume so.
Yeah.
And that's kind of not the way to go, especially when it comes to your business.
Right. And unfortunately, you're going to find that out when you're already being sued.
Yeah.
And that's the worst time to find out, because all of this could be corrected. All of this can be fixed. There's amendments that can be done. There's things that can be done to maintain this entity.
Absolutely.
But it needs to be done at the time before there's a lawsuit, before there's an IRS audit. Because also that's how IRS gets some of these people as well.
I bet, yeah.
They suspend these. This is not a legitimate business. This is not a legitimate entity. You shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be doing that. And how do we protect that if we don't have the documentation to show that this was kept up and it should serve as a business or as an entity structure? Because people didn't keep up with minutes. People didn't have the right, verbiage in the operating agreement.
Right.
Contracts is a big one too.
Yeah.
People will be like, oh, well, I just set up this business with my best friend. Great. So where's the partnership agreement?
Right.
And I don't need it. I take your word for it. I can do a tax return as a partnership, no problem. But when there's an audit, the IRS, first thing they ask for, I want to see the partnership agreement. And when I say that, well, what is that? Who has that? Where did that come from? And that's where, your expertise comes in, because that's when we need an attorney to help us draft these contracts. I mean, I'm not a big fan of partnerships, and I've stated that before.
Yeah.
But not
neither
because,
am I, but for the record.
But not because just, things are not set up properly. It's just you're dealing with two people that have different values. They have different goals in mind, possibly, that have different lifestyles, spending habits. And if all of that is not in a contract, what do you see happening?
Yeah, look, so the main thing to take away, and this is, if you're working with someone else in your business as a business owner, if you're sharing profits or expenses or anything like that, have that in writing, right? You guys should, the first thing you guys should do is go talk to an attorney. Make sure that whatever your roles and responsibilities are drawn out in a way that if someone doesn't do what they're supposed to do, you have an out.
Yeah.
Right. The second thing is, you're absolutely right. Partnerships are rough for many reasons. And I'm going to quick plug it here. One of the things that our firm created because of that is we have a partnership guide.
Okay.
So, as the years go by, people change what they want as far as in their personal lives, in their business, what they want in business. And what we created was a guide of essentially questions of how important certain things are for you.
Yeah.
So if your free time is more important to you, guess what? Your business partner should know that.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to be in the office, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, and your business partner is here 5, 6 times a week, well, guess what? That's how resentment builds.
Yes.
And that's when things get messy. That's when you start fighting. And now, oh, my partner doesn't do anything. And, so we built a little guide to make sure that you have that conversation the right way and know what you want to, talk about, right? Profitability, growth rate, things like that are all things that need to be talked about between business partners.
And I think the most important thing is, yes, it's a contract, but I think it saves relationships, whether you're in business with your best friend, a family member, or just, somebody that shares, that is helping you, maybe expertise-wise, whatever it is. I mentioned in one of the podcasts, working with my sister Brisa, there was resentment. There was resentment because she would leave all the time and I was here working late. But it had nothing to do with the amount of work. It had to do with her organization skills. She was productive. She came in here and she was ready to get her work done and leave. And me, I'm here all day and I probably don't get nothing done, right? And so, but those were the things that it's not necessarily just a contract, is the differences in individuals. And so when I let her take over some of my roles and some of my tasks and kind of control more of what I do, this is my task and I just have to get it done. And so even if I come in and I'm here 8 hours or I'm here 2 hours, as long as that task is done, I'm productive, right? And so, but we figured that out along the way. And so when we have partners that don't have that patience for each other or that don't express that resentment, it builds, and this is how partnerships get broken.
Yeah.
Contracts can help bring that alight before the issue arises, and it's set in stone. Or even worse, what if there's a death, a divorce, something happens in one of the partners, and then all of a sudden you realize that this contract can't save you, that this non-existent contract can't save you from the new spouse, the divorce, the issues that are going on with that person. And now all of the business is exposed to it, right?
I'm glad you bring that up, right? Because that's something that if you go on a site like LegalZoom, or if you are doing your own filing, those are questions that you're not going to even know to ask yourself.
Right.
Right. So for instance, the marriage scenario, right? Let's say if you and your business partner, both of you have different spouses outside the business. Well, depending on where you are in the country, right? Depending on those marriage laws. Yeah. It can have a high impact on the business if one of you guys pass away, where now your spouse comes in and they're half owner or they're, whatever percentage owner. Well, if that spouse has never done anything in this industry and has no idea what they're doing, and now you're giving 50% of your revenue to them or whatever percentage, that's not gonna be fun for you. Yeah. Right. And it's probably not gonna be fun for the spouse either, because they're gonna be scratching their head saying, I don't even know why this is a situation. And if you outline that before the business starts, or while
in the early stages,
while the other person's still alive at the very least, right? Those are headaches that you're not gonna have to avoid, that you can avoid. Those are headaches that your business partner won't have to deal with in case something happens, right? And talking to a professional, it's more about having those conversations and making sure that, hey, look, they've seen this before, so they'll know to bring it up and they'll know how to talk about it. It's not just, oh, I didn't know, damn, right? Like that's what we want to avoid.
So again, there's a lot more to just saying, I'm going to incorporate.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
So I know you mentioned trademark. So that's something that even myself, I'm not very familiar with. What's the importance of trademark? I know people talk about saying, well, I don't want no one to use my name. To me, I'm like, who freaking cares? But I should care, right? I mean, what's the deal behind trademarking?
So just like anything else, it depends on the goals of the business owner, right? A lot of times professional services, their goals aren't to grow past who they are, right? So their goal isn't say, hey, I'm going to sell this and expand, right? Sometimes they are, right? So it all depends on the goals. But what trademark protection does, and the importance about trademarks, is more about making sure you don't step on anybody's toes. Because someone might step on your toes and you might not care. But you might step on somebody else's toes and they might be like, yeah, now we're suing you for everything you have. The thing people don't know is that with trademark law, if you're found to be infringing on someone's trademark, that person's entitled to your profits. So, let's say I started Prominence, business law.
Let's not even go there. I heard about what that Taco Tuesday thing was.
Oh, that's my favorite. That's my favorite topic. Yeah. Oh my God, I love it.
We all know Taco Tuesday.
So Taco Tuesday was trademarked by Taco John, which is, out of all things, it's like this taco place in like Wyoming,
like
right?
This little joint.
Yeah, and they trademarked Taco Tuesday back, I think, in like the 80s.
Wow.
One of the things that they do, I don't know how often, if you guys have looked at it, but places like Taco Bell, Del Taco, one thing they don't advertise is a Taco Tuesday, right? So what Taco John does, and I'm pretty sure the name is Taco John. I don't want to like mess it up, but they send people around to different restaurants around the country, and if they see Taco Tuesdays in their promotions, the first thing they do is send them a cease and desist letter. Hey, Taco Tuesday is a registered trademark. You're infringing on our trademark by using this in your marketing. Stop using it right now, or we're potentially going to sue you. Also, because you've used it so far, send us $10,000 in like damages, right? And that's just an example, right? The number is different.
But it's true. I've seen that letter.
True. Yeah.
I've seen that letter, and that's why I bring it up. Because not only is it going to cost you the $10,000 that you have to pay them, right? It's also your marketing. Like, people had menus printed out. People had their windows covered with like Taco Tuesday and all this crazy stuff. And then they get this letter and they have to pay this fee for damages or whatever. They're going to get sued and they can't use that anymore. But now they've got to go back and change
the rebrand.
All of the stuff that they had printed because they can't use that.
So one of the things that really stinks, right, is if you're a business and let's say you just started off from the ground up, a company that has a trademark won't hear about you till your second or third year. When you're a little more successful. It takes time for you to grow a business typically, and for a business like that to find you, right? The more successful you are, the more eyes you're going to have on you. So think about all that progress you've made in 2 or 3 years. Think about the brand you've built.
Right.
If you have to restart all of that, that hurts your business. That's like just psychologically, you're going to be like, oh my God, what do I do, right? Yeah. You hit the panic button right away. So trademarks, one, yes, protecting yourself is very important. But in my opinion, as a person who started a business out of zero, I don't ever want to step on somebody's toes because I know how expensive that can get.
Right. No, it's to me, trademark is a little foreign. I never really thought of the value in a trademark until, like you said, unless you were going to to grow this thing beyond you, right? But in the recent growth that we've had and the recent business coaching that we've done and all that stuff, we've learned that it's important to separate yourself from your brand, 100%. Right? So you don't come to see Suhei because Suhei only has X amount of times in her schedule. And so what the coach taught us was, look, if we can duplicate Suhei, now we have Suhei, we have Danny, we have all these other people, right, that people can come see. But if you make you your brand, then you're limited. And we want to be unlimited. We want to be able to still run without me being here, right? And so when that concept was introduced to me, and then I started to really think about it, I'm like, dude, that's exactly it. This is how we create more hours, right? This is how we can grow past just me selling my time. But then they looked at my name. They're like, Prominence. That's your brand. Yeah. And all of a sudden it's like, oh shoot, we've got to protect that because now we're selling Prominence, and Prominence has to keep a certain level of professionalism, a certain level of expertise, a certain level of what it's all about. And now all of a sudden I care about trademarking it.
So you bring up a great point, right? So the name of my law firm is Empire Business Law. I did that intentionally. I know if you look around, you'll see a lot of law firms with whatever and whoever's name, right? Yeah. Like Lopez and Piedra.
Most of the time, that's how you see accounting firms too.
Yeah, and the problem with that is you're leaving value on the table. So Prominence itself, it has name value. If or when Suhei goes to sell her business.
We're talking about trademark after this.
when Suhei goes to sell her business, they're going to see the name Prominence, and that's going to have value to it. Yeah. Right? Because yes, they'll be buying your clients, they'll be buying your systems, but if they have name value that attached to that, that matters way more than Suhei at this point.
No, I
right?
agree. That's and that brings up, like, even to compare it to something like H&R Block.
Yeah.
There's hundreds of H&R Blocks. Who is behind that office that you go see?
Nobody knows and nobody cares.
Exactly. You're just going into an H&R Block.
Yeah.
Right? You're going into a McDonald's. You're going into a Taco Bell. You don't know who the owners are. You don't know that they're franchises.
Yeah.
You don't know anything about the person behind it. And that's the idea we want to have of that's why trademarking is important, and that's where we want to take the business to the next level.
The best example I could give is, we all know how advanced like Apple technology is. Well, you also know that if you take the Apple logo and slap it on anything, that increases in value.
Yeah.
Right? If I put it on this on this light, and it's like the Apple light, that's just raised by $5 at least. Right? And that's the power of it, right? You'd be able to sell the trademark of Apple for more value than the technology in Apple. You know what I mean? Which is kind of insane when you think about the products they sell, but really it's that trademark that's more important, because that's really where the value comes in from a financial standpoint.
That's really a different perspective that you put in my mind, because I never really thought about that. But you're right. Just putting that logo onto something changes the value because of what it represents.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah. I mean that's just something I never really thought about. So trademarking, at what point is it something that we consider, or is it something that we do right in the beginning when we first start the business? And also in that same thing, is it something that's done, I know with corporations, DBAs, it's like county, state, you know, how does trademark work on that? At what level do we consider it? And is it just for our area? How does that work?
So the best way to get protected is a federal trademark registration. That'll protect you locally, that'll protect you nationally as well. When you want to trademark depends on a few factors. Let's be honest, not everyone knows if they're going to be in their business long term.
Yeah.
Right? It's a real concern. Sometimes you're in business for a couple of months and you're like, I can't make it, right? So now you spent money on trademarking, and it's like, did that matter? The guideline I like to say is, you want to conduct a trademark search, which is just a search, right? As early as when you start, promoting your business, right? So as soon as you start telling people, hey, this is my business, you want to make sure that you're not going to be infringing on anybody. Because like I said, that gets very expensive itself. As far as registering the trademark, what I like to say is, once you know that that's the brand you're going to stick with, get that trademark registration, right? Because the way it works is you renew it every 7 years. Well, the first time you renew it is 7 years. After that, you renew it every 10 years. Okay. So it's fairly easy to kind of keep up with, right? It's not like a state filing fee that you do every year. It's 7 years and then every 10 years after that. The other thing to look at too is you have to protect it. So if, we'll use Prominence. If Prominence opens down the street, if you own that trademark, you have to say, hey, you can't use this.
Got it.
That's part of policing. That's why Taco John is all over the place issuing these things.
But what comes to my mind too is, Taco Tuesday is just 2 words put together. It's a phrase that we could just use.
Yep.
So do we protect, are we just allowed to trademark, I don't know, the color blue?
That's a great question. So I know, as a fashionable person, you probably have heard of Tiffany.
Yeah.
And the jewelry. Tiffany Blue has its own trademark. So it's a nice little sky blue box. Yeah, It's not really called sky blue. It's called Tiffany Blue. They've trademarked this color so that they're the only people that can use that color when selling jewelry. It can go to that
extreme.
Yep. Yeah. And it happens as well as shapes. You can trademark scents. You can trademark the way something is packaged. You can trademark, go to McDonald's, like, I'm loving it. That's a trademark. Right?
Wow.
Yeah, things like that. So whatever people are going to associate your business with, right, that's trademarkable. You can't just trademark anything, right? So if you say, hey, I want to use the term
money, I don't know.
Yeah, money, right? Like, you can't trademark that because, one, taxes, money.
Yeah.
But also, you're not using it in your marketing, right? So if you're using it in your marketing, if people think of that term, that color, that smell, that scent, that packaging, and they think of your business, that's something that's worth the trademark.
Got it. Gosh, never knew that. I learned something new today. Definitely on trademarks. But again, it's where your business is at, where you're taking it.
Yeah.
Like you said, those goals have a lot to do with that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, no, thank you for sharing that. Like I said, incorporating is something that's been in my, world since I first started. People start businesses all the time. Yes, once radio and LegalZoom became popular, it's like every day, every call has to do with a corporation probably. But before that, it was just, when people started their businesses, and as a tax strategy, we would sometimes think like, hey, you know what? Have you ever thought of this? And let me connect you to someone that can talk to you a little bit more about protection, asset management, and all of that good stuff, But over time with advertising, it's become something that people do it all the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's unnecessary and it costs more than it's worth. But I think educating people to know when is a good time, if it's the right time for you, and also, how to maintain it and how to avoid all these extra fees. California loves charging you fees for not maintaining this corporation. People call us and say, California suspended my entity and I don't know why, or they went into my bank account and took money out. And it's like, this could have all been avoided if you paid $25 to the state,
Right.
and all of that other stuff. So it's just kind of educating individuals of how to maintain these entities so that you save money on all those penalties. And then two, so that, they serve the purpose,
Right.
that they protect you. Right. So, and we talked about partnerships and contracts and these trademarks. Is there anything else that you want our audience to know about, or that you commonly see that's, that you wish could be avoided just by getting the word out?
Yeah. So I'll say this, and this goes to any professional. The reason why you book a time to talk to Suhei or book a time to talk to me isn't because we're going to do something special that no one's ever done before. It's because people have done it before. It's because we've done it before, and we know what questions to ask. We know what some of the pitfalls are if you have an idea that we don't think it's so kosher, right? So, the main takeaway, if you have a business specifically, just because I'm a business attorney and trademark attorney, so for business specifically, if you take your business seriously and your goal is to grow your business, your goal is to make more money, your goal is to, leave some kind of reputation behind, make sure that you're talking to professionals. It goes a long way. It can save you money. It can make you money. You don't know what you're missing out if you don't talk to people who do this for their daily lives.
Yeah. That's what I say. The purpose of this podcast, we don't have, we don't make money. We're not here, there's no paid advertising or anything like that. But what we do when I bring guests like you on, I want to get the word out. I want to get the word out of educating individuals, of just knowing that little tidbit. I learned about trademarks today. I never really, looked into that before. But just so that you know the importance of maintaining and, how to keep all this stuff in order. We see it all the time because we work with clients. I see business owners, 8 hours a day. You see business owners 8 hours. So we get to share with you just a glimpse of what we get to see. And we get to say, hey, you know what, to avoid this or to protect you from that, you should do this. Or I had a client that went through this and this is what happened. So it gives you an idea of what steps you should take to avoid the same costly mistakes and situations. So that's the goal of obviously this podcast. The goal of us sharing the knowledge with you is that you take a little bit of that away. So, but thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I really appreciate you. You, since I met you, you've been just nothing but help, knowledge, and just a great person to be around.
I appreciate that. And likewise.
My clients love you. The people that have worked with you have nothing but good things to say about you and your professionalism. So I really do appreciate you helping us all out.
Thank you for having me. And likewise, I'm always happy to know that when we share a client, or if I can send someone your way, I'm always happy to say, hey, look, this person you need to talk to. Clients don't always listen, but you know.
But it's okay. It's on them.
Right. No, but Surya, you've always been a great resource for me and my firm, so I definitely appreciate it.
Thank you. And lastly, where, if one of our clients or the audience is looking to search for you, where could they locate you? How do they contact you? What's the best way?
The best place to find us is empirebusinesslawfirm.com. There you'll be able to find our contact information. We have our email set up there, as well as our contact information. Because trademark law and most of business law is mostly federal, we not only help people in California, but we help people pretty much nationwide. We have one firm here in California, and then we have another firm in New Jersey, in the New York City metro area. But the best place to find us is definitely empirebusinesslawfirm.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Danny, for being here. And please remember to follow us at prominence.services. And our website is prominencebusiness.com. And see you guys on the next one. So if your mindset is ready to excel to the next level, and you want to give up the multiple hats to a business who will support you, then schedule a call with us today. We can be reached at 626-825-8249. Please give us a review and share us with your friends and family.